Constantly step back to not grasp for the non-grasping itself. That which has nothing to do with the body, mind, or anything whatsoever. That which has nothing to do with the uninvolvement within the uninvolvement itself. Neither is it according to the body, mind, or anything. Step back, constantly step back to not grasp for the non-grasping itself. Disregard the disengaging itself. Nothing is within the non-attachment itself. Be thorough with it. All this gazing, focusing, throwing forward and projecting is a lot here. Step back from the stepping back itself. Give up the giving up itself, child. The projection is really blocking. Projecting, overlaying body, mind, and all things is so much obstructing. Always creating karma. Projecting, overlaying, seeing, and knowing constantly. That's why you need to step back even from the stepping back itself. This will dissolve all the projecting, uprising, focusing. This is intentional karma. What is there that is projecting towards anything is karma. That's why you need to step back from the stepping back itself, to not engage, to not grasp for the non-grasping itself, to let go of the letting go itself. This will dissolve the process of the samudaya of karma, the cause of karma. That which has nothing to do with the body and mind, uninvolved even within the uninvolvement itself. There is not only just having karma and karmic retributions overlaying by the projecting and uprising like this. Step back, disengage even from disengaging itself without grasping itself. This is not at itself. Dissolve itself is not at itself, within the projecting, within the uprising, that which has nothing to do with uprising or not, projecting or not, uninvolvement within the uninvolvement itself. Is not at itself, child. Therefore, don't be engrossed with off-sided karma, always falling forward with karma. That's why you need to step back from the stepping back itself. No grasping for the non-grasping itself. Dissolve all the projecting, focusing, soaring forward, uprising, and all that. This is the process of karma, of the suffering, of the cause of suffering. All this gazing, focusing, looking, projecting forward, this is the process of karma, of the samudaya. That's why give up the giving up itself, stepping back from the stepping back itself. That which is boundless. Let's not be engrossed with just about the body and mind or anything. The more it's like that, the more distorted it will be. Nothing is within being aligned or being at anything. This is not about the boundlessness in the way of drifting and soaring forward. Disengage even from itself in the way without boundaries, because there is no limitations. There is no specific, no limitations. That's why it's boundless. The boundaries are created by the fixes or the focusing, aiming, projecting, uprighting. This is the delusive attachment. Is the frame of the delusive attachments. There is no such a kind of delusive attachment that is real. It just happened occasionally, that's all. There is just about the delusion within the delusive attachment or not. That's all. Disengage even from itself, projecting, and that's it. It's bygone without delusion. Make it up with the great compassion to utilize it occasionally, temporarily, without grasping for the projecting itself. Disengage even from disengaging itself, enable to discard even from the discarding itself. In this way, the form up of projecting, there is no delusion in it. It's not hanging there within the projecting. We can form up anything to utilize it temporarily without grasping for any form up, any make-up things. It has to be without grasping for the made-up things, which is discarding itself. Just make up without grasping for it. The true essence is at the origin. No grasping is on its own. The origin of the graces. No grasping is on its own. These will have effects with everything. Non-attachment is on its own. That which has nothing to do with attachment or non-attachment. Then it will become the made-up that doesn't grasp for itself, the assuming that doesn't grasp for itself. It can be done, but there is no grasping for any assuming or any making up. Projecting or uprighting can be done without grasping for itself, naturally. Manifesting form and formlessness, life, body and mind. Life that doesn't grasp for life itself, the make-up things doesn't grasp for itself. This is deriving from no grasping on its own. This is the essence that is from. Therefore, that which is made up or manifested already there, body, mind, form and formlessness already manifested. No grasping on its own to purify well with this essence. Disengage even from itself. Let's make a conclusion to purify to the extinction and emptiness thoroughly, simultaneously with the make-up things, simultaneously with the manifested body and mind, form and formlessness. Disengage even from itself, simultaneously with all things and all elements, body and mind, form and formlessness, simultaneously with samsara. This is not to be deludedly and hanging there, throwing all the make-up and stuck in there. It's not like that. Disengage even from disengaging itself thoroughly, simultaneously with the manifested life, body and mind, gates of perceptions and objects of perceptions. Purify through the extinction and emptiness simultaneously with samsara that is made up. This is not the made up that grasps for itself. This is not the assumed that grasps for itself and being deluded to grasp itself. Samsara of the made up has happened. Therefore, we have to make up and manifest something to purify it. This is self-purification. Make up something to purify the make-up things. Let's come to terms to purify the made-up things thoroughly. Even each time that has the reminder, it is a made-up thing as well. However, it is self-purification in the made-up things like that, within the reminder itself. The reminder that is formed up, disengaged from disengaging itself, is made up, but it has self-purification. It doesn't grasp for itself. Therefore, it can purify the deluded grasping from samsara. Step back from the stepping back itself completely. Stepping back, disengage from disengaging itself absolutely. Open up eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind simultaneously with the balance with the object of perception. This will purify through the extinction and emptiness naturally. Step back to not grasp for the non-grasping itself. This will purify the suffering and the whole process of the samudaya, of the causes of suffering and the suffering. It will cease the suffering and the causes of suffering for the whole system of it. Be thorough with it. The samudaya means causes of suffering. This is the language from the past era. Right now, we use our own language from this era. From different land, we use the language of that land, so that it will be direct. Everywhere is the land of the Buddhas, here as well. It's just different period of times. However, the essence are not different. That which has nothing to do with fixation or non-fixation, all the same. That which has nothing to do with involvement or uninvolvement, all the same. Different period of time, but the essence has never been different at all. Don't be drifting with the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and minds. Open up and use the reminder to purify at the same time. Disengage from disengaging itself. Let's purify through this kind of reminder. Otherwise, the opening will be drifting, straying, soaring, restless. disengage from itself simultaneously with everything. This will be sharing the great compassion of the purification of the extinction and emptiness simultaneously. We have to form up the great compassion simultaneously. This is the make-up of the great compassion to purify. Help samsara towards ending, child. Samsara is derived from the delusion. Deludedly fixating, deludedly uprighting, projecting, and hanging there, grasping for the projecting, grasping for the obligation, grasping for the fixation. That's the delusion in itself. That's why it becomes samsara, circling in itself, on and on. It's fixating towards that which is non-fixation, grasping for that which is not about grasping. How can we grasp for the anatta or the anicca? That is the deluded fixation. Grasping for the projection, grasping for the obligation, deludedly fixating. That's why we need to purify through the great compassion. We have to make it up. Disengage from disengaging itself. Non-attachment is on its own with everything, so that it will end all about fixating or not fixating delusively. It will end for both fixating or not fixating, attaching or non-attaching. No fixation on its own. Just remind oneself like this, so that it will end all the delusion about attachment or non-attachment. This is not about trying to not attach. It's a delusion. Deludedly not attached. So purify well. Non-attachment is on its own. This will end for both attaching or non-attaching. It will end the tilting to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back, to wherever it is. Because there is choosing. Let's end all choosing. How can we choose when it's anicca and anatta, ever-changing and meaningless? How can we choose to grasp for anything from it? How can we grasp for that which is not about grasping? Let's end all choosing, child. For both fixating or non-fixating, non-attachment is on its own. It's not about not choosing to attach or not attached. That which has nothing to do with attaching or non-attaching. Let's purify through Nibbana thoroughly. All the purposes for liberation, how can it be? That is deludedly choosing towards that which is not about anything. It's impossible to choose for liberation of suffering or even Nibbana. Let's come to term well to purify all the grasping. No grasping even for the non-grasping itself. This is not to grasp for Nibbana or liberation of suffering. Let's come to term with the delusion to grasp for liberation of suffering and Nibbana. That is the suffering in itself and the cause of suffering in itself. No grasping even for the non-grasping itself thoroughly. Then it will end all delusion towards Nibbana or no Nibbana. How can we project for anything? Because that is the causes of suffering and the suffering within itself. When using the wishes, is going further and further. Using cravings, also the desire, the cravings, soaring forward more and more. The present is not even the present itself. Why we are projecting for the future? For what? Therefore, step back even from the stepping back itself. Stepping back without grasping for the stepping back itself. Step back from itself. Let's not be engrossed with just stepping back from anything with that act. Being engrossed with the act of stepping back, it's just falling into the crevice as usual. Soaring forward, also falling into the crevice of the suffering and the causes of suffering. Stepping back from itself, without grasping for the stepping back itself, self-purification in the stepping back. Let's not be obsessed to deludedly stepping back from anything. In this way, it will end all about not wanting or wanting, grasping or not grasping, no grasping for the non-grasping itself will end all this. Non-attachment on its own, it will end all about deludedly attaching or non-attaching, end all about being deluded as the worldlings or the noble ones. The arahants is not the arahants. The worldlings, they just throwing the trash out as the arahants are like this, are like that. The arahants don't have meanings as arahants themselves. They are just the trash that comes out from the words of the worldlings of samsara. They are just saying about the arahants by themselves, how they are, like this, like that. And then making a propaganda to search for the arahants. Even the arahants don't have any cravings for anything. So who is it or what is it that is searching and craving for the arahants? This is coming from the trash, from the worldlings totally. The more you're looking for the arahants, you go further than the arahants. You can't find them, no matter how much you look for them. You can't find the emptiness the more you look for the emptiness, because emptiness doesn't signify itself. You are deserved from your searches. Therefore, come to term to purify all the delusion. Disengage from the disengaging itself. Purifies the disengaging itself. This will end all the deludedly attached or non-attached. Let's end all the delusions. Disengage from disengaging itself will end all about the act of my or not my, disengage or not disengaging. No grasping for the non-attachment itself. Be thorough so that we will not use the delusion to touch anything. Purify well. Letting go from the letting go itself, self-purification in the purification itself, non-attachment on its own is the conclusion that concludes itself totally. It will end all delusion to attach or non-attach totally. Step back to disengage from itself constantly. When there are a lot of the desire that is soaring forward, or the projecting, uprighting, and hanging there a lot, then give up the giving up itself. Step back from the stepping back itself. Step back to not grasp for the non-grasping itself. Let go of the letting go itself constantly. This will give ending for all the delusion to let go or not letting go naturally. Listen well, then you gain nothing from listening. If you come to see Luang Po and you get a lot, that means you are unfortunate. You get a lot from Luang Po. You can understand, you can know. That is unfortunate already. You are grasping for that which is not about grasping. That's already terrible. You have to come back again to see Luang Po, right? Have to listen again to purify your listening again. Grasping for that which is not about grasping. Still taking opinions and meanings into account. Still taking account with wisdom, understanding or not understanding. This is deludedly grasping. Listen again. No grasping is on its own. This will purify all the delusion to grasp or not grasp, wanting or not wanting.